how do you coach consistency? What have you learned about how to get that
Ooh.
your coaching career?
One thing we talked about with this team from the beginning is our habits, our professional habits, and how we approach each day. And it sounds like a simple thing, and they're kind of normal habits and they're elite habits. I think habits lead to consistent. That's what I've kind of observed over my years. This is talking about, from an individual standpoint, how guys prepare, how they take care of their bodies, what do they do in the weight room, and we are. Um, I think we're pretty darn good. We got good at it. We got great professionals. These guys are at that point in their career where they know what they have to do. They know when they have to do it. And then we got a rookie, in Jalen, who's we've talked about how he's like a 7-year pro. He gets it. So I think that's a big part of consistency is how they approach each day.
From the outside looking in, it seems like they're somehow managing to get their best out of every player right now, not just one guy, not just a couple guys. What are you seeing there? How do you think that everybody is kind of flourishing in that role?
I think it starts with our best players empowering those other guys, right? It doesn't happen unless your best players are willing to share, share share the ball, share defensive responsibilities. The fact that those guys are willing to empower everybody, empower our bench. That's where it starts. And then I think from the coaching staff, standpoint, we have a lot of individual conversations. We do a lot of individual and small group work, so a lot of conversations. And then last thing, it's just you have a group of guys that have high character, and their spirits in the right place, their energies in the right place. So, all that. It's kind of a long-winded answer, but it all matters.
Chris.
Hey, Kenny.
Hey,
At one
Chris.
point last year, Darius was among the league leaders in turnovers, and this year he's cut those down significantly. What are you seeing on that end, and what has the message been to Darius in terms of taking care of the ball?
Oh, that's a good question. Why has it improved? Is our pace actually helped him? Maybe shorter possessions, quicker up the floor. He's one of the fastest guys in the league, and I think we're giving him spacing early. Where he's got more room. So I think that's a help. Again, making sure we have shared principles. Everybody knows kind of what they're doing, and not just to play, but to play after the play. What happens when it breaks. We call it neutral. When we're neutral, what happens? We have triggers off when we're neutral, and they kind of all know where they have to be. So that helps. I'd say the last thing is I really encourage him to, probe more. When he gets in that lane, can he, instead of trying to maybe force in the first intention, can he, Chris Paul was great at Nash was great at it. Tiny Archibald for you guys that remember way back, like just the ability to keep your dribble, probe for something better, and then after that, he's a great passer, like great. Like I don't say that lightly. He can really pass. So that's kind of so instead of like cutting him back, we've actually kind of given him more freedom, if that makes sense. But we got to make sure our spacing's right to help him out.
Thank you.
You just alluded to something, so I apologize if you guys
No.
all discussed this a bunch, but I was trying to dig into what you're doing compared to last year.
Yeah.
You're at the exact same time across half court, but you're just much quicker in the half court, and yet you're getting much better shots with much fewer passes. What are you doing? How are you creating?
We're shooting quicker, right? I think, yeah.
You have the third fastest time to an end of possession by the time you cross half court.
Yeah, that was intentional, and I think the spacing helps. Like how what do they call it in soccer? I call it like this is where it's like our build up. We're real intentional about how we're building up to offense, where guys are running, what is that? What does the sequence look like on the passing up the court? I think we definitely have some real shared principles on that. It's something I never really did before. It's something I learned kind of my time as an assistant after being a head coach. Okay, everyone says run to the corners, but there's a lot more to that. Where do you get the outlet? Where are the other four guys to run? Are the other four guys running, right? Everyone talks about the guy, time to half court with the ball. It's like, what about the other four guys? Like they have to, we say four run for one, right? So the other four have to run. So it's kind of multi-layered, but we emphasize that we work on it a lot. And, we're not the fastest team in the league, like you said, but I think our principles are pretty good.
Dan.
Where do you think offensively, you guys have been top of the league almost all year on that end floor, but where do you think you still have more room to grow?
Offensive rebounding is still I feel like, where is Miller? The playoffs, there's going to be games where we're going to miss shots, and especially, in the playoffs, I think, how can we gain more possessions? But I do think, I know last game I think we're in the 88th percentile. They told me so we're trying, but I think it's important, offensive rebounding without affecting your transition defense. We can do a better job there. I think it'll help us if we get more possessions. Obviously, the way we shoot the ball could really help our offense.
And then Sam and Dean are both questionable. Do you plan on having them tonight?
Let's see on both of them. Just still questionable. I'll talk to see how they do pregame and then go from there.
Thorough.
Coach, of course, we got to see Donovan coming in early in his career as a rookie, start to mature as a leader. What else does he bring? Obviously, besides the obvious things in his game, leadership attributes.
Yeah.
Blue guy.
I think he's and I don't know if this is he progressed in this area or not, but he's an excellent communicator. I would say that's number one. He's aggressive in his communication in a good way. Whether it's with his teammates, with me, we're always talking about things. He's got a big voice in the huddle. And then I would say, and I don't, again, I would think this is always a part of his personality, but he's so even keeled. Like he's literally the embodiment of never gets too high, never gets too low. When things start getting a little crazy or frazzled or we're a little out of sorts, he kind of calms us. But he's in that sweet spot, in terms of maturity. I feel, and he's leading. And the last thing I'd say, and I've said this to this group a lot, but he's realized he's got to take a step back to empower the others, and I'll put Evan kind of in that. Evan I think needed that. Like he needed someone to say, hey man, we need you to, here, just throw you the ball in the trail position, throw you the ball here. I'm going to set a pick and roll for you. Like this league, like that takes that takes a humility and a someone who's willing to be a part of something bigger than themselves, right? Here you go, Evan. I'm going to empower you, and I think that's kind of the unspoken thing that's kind of happened with Evan's game. A lot of it's Donovan empowering him.
Tim.
Kenny, the offensive principle, philosophy, drive, kick, swing. Can you talk about the evolution of that, where that started and how it's evolved?
And I played for 13 years in Europe. That was the style of play. Like it was before it hit here. It was court spread. That was where I first saw it and kind of fell in love with it. And out of the drive, kick, swing, there are specific principles. Right, I see it done in college sometimes. They just kind of drive, kick, swing. There are rules, principles that you have to follow when you do it. Where are you going after the drive? When you drive one direction, you're in the slot. Where's everybody going? When you drive middle, what's everybody doing? And we really instilled that since day one. You know, we're gonna have simple triggers, which are plays, right? We have a small playbook, but you know, once we gain that advantage, we're just kind of into our principles of play, and you know, there's a lot of them. It's not always perfect, but guys have really bought in.
Are there differences, or is there something unique about it compared to other motion or movement type offenses?
That's a good question. You know, good question. I don't know if we do it better than other people. You know, I don't. I do think, like, take example. Everyone says that the league, you know, it's a lot of similarities. Take us in Utah. I can just use that. They're much more off-ball screen team, right? Like we're probably more drive, kick, get to closeouts. They gain their advantage by with their off-ball screening, which is phenomenal. Like, it fits their personnel with marketing and their shooters, and that's how they gain their advantage. So I you know, I'd like to go down the whole league and tell you this. Yeah, this is kind of similar. This is not, but I think every team's unique. This is kind of what I felt fit this roster best. This style of play.
Coach, we talked a little bit about Damari earlier into the season, Damari Carroll, but
Yeah.
you've been around him a long time, going back to Atlanta, Brooklyn. Players have talked about how that he's taken them under their wing. How have you seen him grow in that aspect from Brooklyn to now?
Oh man, I mean, he was great as a player, you know, because I knew he had coaching in his future. Just great touch in the locker room. Great, obviously knows the game, but he's just got that. He's got the right touch. He knows when to communicate with a player, when not to, what to say to a player, and he can also, you know, when someone needs like a real kind of like wake up call, he's got the credibility, right, and really, I don't know. You just have that touch, or whether ex-player or not, he's got the touch, and players respect him. Like I said before, I ask him a lot. Hey, put your player hat on. Should we shoot around this morning? Like you know, put your player hat on. You know, whether it's travel, just, you know, practice load. You know, starting a guy or not starting a guy. He's always got a unique perspective, player perspective. It weighs heavily into the decisions I make.
Last one, Nate.
Hey Kenny, this is a big picture question a ways away, but just in terms of you're at game 30 now, and you know the franchise record for wins is 66. Is that something you would talk to your guys about? Would you ever just
Never.
No.
Never. You know, it's the old Bill Walsh thing. Like the results will take care of itself. Like we're just gonna keep going, keep focusing on our habits and our improvement day to day. I don't, you know, I don't know. Everyone said you should set goal. I don't like. It's like let's just focus on the day. You know, really be intentional about our process every day, and no one's talking about championships. Or now I will say I do talk about playoffs with this team because that looks like something, you know, pretty sure, you know, can happen if we keep going this way. But for the most part, it's still not focusing on a win total at all.
And when you guys were on that streak to begin the season, it seemed like when you would come in after games and like you might get asked a question about, you know, best start for the Cavs or best winning streak for the Cavs or best start by a head coach. Like those all seem like surprises to you. Were they surprised? Like you didn't track that throughout any of it?
No. I knew it, you know, from you guys coming in here, and but it wasn't something on my radar. Just kind of let it happen, you know, and you know, when we had that first loss, I obviously looked back. I think we looked back and talked about it, and you know, celebrated a little, like, hey man, heck of a job. But you know, in that locker room, I don't think they like that talk. Like they're not a group that you're like celebrating things all the time. They want to know, how can we get better? How can we improve our processes? And so that's kind of how we approach it.